Hi, this is Steve for TrueHollywoodTalk.com. We're here with Duncan Wellaway about his film called Always Crashing in the Same Car. I kind of like that title. Duncan, welcome to True Hollywood Talk.
Hi, very nice to be here. Thank you.
Where are you from? London?
Yeah, I'm from London. I'm not from London originally. I'm from Devon, which is in the south coast of England, but I moved to London about 10 years ago, so I consider myself a Londoner now, really.
What's this movie about, Always Crashing in the Same Car? Give us a little background.
Okay. Well, it's hard for me to tell you what it's about without giving away the ending, but I really don't want to do that. So basically it's about two very powerful men who work in the city of London. You're not really sure what they do, but you can tell they're very high-powered men, and they obviously hate each other. And after a very big argument, one of them storms off into the middle of the night, gets in his car, and he runs somebody over and kills them. And then he has to go to his friend. Well, he's not his friend, the person he hates, but he's the only person he can call on, and they have to cover this up. And that's what it's about. It's very dark, but there's some laughs in there as well. It's kind of a black comedy, I guess.
It sounds like you're a fan of some of those old British kind of gangster movies with Bo Hopkins, I think. You'd be perfect for a movie like this.
Bob Hoskins? No, it's not. It's not. It's not really a gangster movie. It's kind of. It's more. It's more of a black comedy. The two actors that are in it are very famous in England for a cult film called With Nail and I, which there's a few fans of in Hollywood. Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann. So it's very different to that film, but it's definitely not a gangster movie. It's more of a strange kind of psychological thriller, I guess.
What gave you the idea? Because obviously you have these two powerful men, and it's a very interesting story you've kind of developed here. Where did this idea kind of come from? I mean, what's your background? Have you done films before?
Yeah, no, this is my fifth short film, and a little bit of background to this film. Basically, I made a film prior to this called Letters of Service, which played a lot of festivals. It played here, actually, a couple of years ago. And it played at a film festival in France called Dinard Film Festival. And at that festival, I met an actor called Paul McGann, who's in this film. And he was there by pure coincidence, but he was actually on a little Post-it note. I'd written down a Post-it note of all the actors that I want to get this script to. And he happened to be there, so I was like, I've got to go and see him, So I went to him and I said, look, I think you're great. I really want you to be in this film. I told him what it was about, and he read the script. And he said, I don't know if I understand it, because it's quite crazy. The script is really intense. And I said, well, come and see my other film at the festival, and if you like it, we'll talk. And he came to see it, and he really liked it. So he said, yeah, I'll do it. And so that was great. So I had him, and then he said, well, we should try this other actor, Richard E. Grant, and he also agreed to do it. So I was, in England, this really is. They are really quite famous. So it was quite a big deal to get those two actors, and. So that's kind of a background of how I got those two guys. In terms of how I got the script idea, it just came to me really quickly. Some ideas you have to really work at, but this, I really wrote it in about, like half a day or something. I just sat down, I had this idea that these two characters really at loggerheads all the time, hate each other. Something happens, something horrible happens that kind of brings them together in a weird kind of way. And I just wrote it, it just came out of me really quickly.
What's been the response to the film, and what did you shoot it on?
The response to the film has been very good. It's only really started to. I only finished it earlier this year, so it's only getting picked up by festivals now. It's playing at Montreal at the moment. It had its kind of world premiere there yesterday, and now it's playing at Palm Springs in a couple of days. So it's a close second premiere, and it's playing at London Film Festival in a couple of months. And the response, so far has been great. I've had a couple of screenings in London, and I wasn't sure which way it would go because, as I said, it's quite intense. There's quite a bit of bad language in there. It's not for everyone, It's not a kind of film that is a kind of feel-good film. It's more of a feel-bad film, But there's humour there, as I said, kind of black humour. So yeah, it went down really well. I was really surprised. There were laughs and people seemed to enjoy it. So it's cool.
How'd you get this whole crew together? What did you shoot it on? How long is the film?
Oh, sorry, you said I shot it on 35mm. Which is my first experience of 35mm. It's fantastic. It's very expensive, but I managed to get funding for this, so it was great to shoot on 35mm. The crew, a lot of the people that worked on this film, I'd worked on with the previous short film, so that when I work with people and I gel with them, and I think they're good, then I try to work with them as much as I can. Because that's the hardest thing really. If you're making short films, is if you can find people that are willing to go through that kind of slog with you, because they're not doing it for money, they're doing it because they like your script. And if you can find people that are great at what they do, then you kind of hold on to them. So a lot, as I say, a lot of the people I'd worked with before.
You have a certain intensity. Are you an intense guy? Just interviewing you, the intensity of the film is kind of coming through, Duncan. Yeah, no, not at all. Okay, all right. But there's a certain intensity of you want to tell this story. What was your childhood like? Where'd you grow up? We want to know. Did you have a rough upbringing? What made you want to tell this kind of story?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I am quite intense, I guess. The film I made previous to this wasn't as intense as this one. But yeah, my background's fairly kind of normal. Not terribly kind of sad or deprived. It's just this particular story was just something that it's just something that just came to me.
Hang out with David Beckham growing up. Okay? He's a little too pretty. I mean, you're a soccer player, David. And you're on all the covers, but I think you're a little too pretty for movies.
Yeah, no, I was kind of a bad kid at school, I guess. I was a bit naughty, bit of a naughty boy at school. So I guess goofing off and not really concentrating on my studies and that kind of thing. So I guess maybe that's that kind of anti-establishment kind of energy, a bit punk rock. That's kind of what this film's about, really. Yeah.
Well, I love British films. The same creative team that did The Shaun of the Dead. I just watched their new one, and they're just amazing. And I don't even know some of the names of those actors, but I have to tell you, that's a creative crew. Who are some of your favorite British actors right now?
British actors. We've got some great ones at the moment. There's a guy called Paddy Considine who made a movie called Dead Man's Shoes. He's actually in the film you're talking about, Hot Fuzz, in a small role. He's fantastic. He's somebody I'd love to work with. I've got a feature script actually, which is going out to people at the moment. And there's an actor called Damian Lewis, who was in Band of Brothers here. The red-headed guy is one of the lead roles in that. He's a fantastic actor. He made a film called Keen in New York a couple of years ago, which if some of your subscribers have seen or not seen it, you should definitely see it. It's a fantastic movie. Damian Lewis is just phenomenal in that film. So those two guys I think are great. Who else do I like?
It's okay to like Irish actors like Stephen Ray too?
I like Stephen Ray. He's been around a long time, and we've got some great actors in England. They all come over here inevitably and do great work in Hollywood movies. We've got a great film industry in England, and particularly with the actors. I think
What's the big difference between the film industry, say in Britain and out in LA, where I live? Is it more for them? It seems like there's a lot of more money here than there.
Oh, that's the fundamental difference, basically. A British film like my first feature is low budget. It's like £1 million, and to get a film funded in England for that kind of budget range is quite hard. Whereas here, there are films of that budget level being made, all over town, all over Los Angeles. So it's just a much bigger industry. You make like 600 films a year or something like that, and in England we make maybe 50 or something. The French film industry is much healthier than the British film industry. It's kind of sad, the British film industry. It's great. There's all this talent there, but there aren't enough producers there, and there aren't enough people willing to finance movies. That's the problem.
I want to know, any romantic comedies in your future, or what's the next film? I want to know. Is it going to be a bunch of guys in a knife fight? I want to know. What's the next film, Duncan?
Unsurprisingly, it's not a romantic comedy. No, it's intense. It's a ghost story. It's about a young boy who's 13 years old. It's a coming of age story, but through psychological kind of torment and ghosts. But it's not a traditional horror movie. It's a bit like a movie called The Others, with Nicole Kidman in, and a great movie which I love, a British movie called The Innocents. It's very suggestive. It's all shadows and noises and no blood, no bad language, just very intense atmosphere. Things are going on in a haunted house, and it's two people, and you're finding out through the progression of the story something terrible's happened in the family in the past, and it basically comes out at the very end of the film. So it's not it's not a happy story. But I would like to make comedies. I've written a comedy actually. It's not a romantic comedy, but it's a goofy comedy. So I don't want to I don't want people to think that I'm just like this kind of intense guy who doesn't have a sense of humor. That's not.
He kind of looks like the kind of guy who's going to like stick a gun on my gut and say, "Hey, where's the money for the film?" He's kind of got that kind of ambiance. Look, tonight I'm hanging out with Duncan Wellaway. And in all disrespect to David Beckham, I'd rather hang out with this dude, okay? There's something real about him. Keep kicking soccer balls, David. But I want to thank you so much for coming on TrueHollywoodTalk.com.
No, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for the opportunity, to talk with you. It's been great.
And Daniel Craig, I know you're watching TrueHollywoodTalk.com. Duncan's got a role for you in his next movie, but you're not working for any more money than anybody else, Daniel. Just remember that. And I loved, what was that one that he had? Layer Cake. Daniel, you were awesome in Layer Cake.
He's another guy, yeah, I love
One of my favorite movies of all time. I want to thank Duncan for coming on TrueHollywoodTalk.com. Really talking about British cinema, one of my favorite. And I have to say, Bob Hoskins is one of my favorite actors. Mona Lisa, it doesn't get much better than that.
Good Friday's a fantastic film.
A Long Good Friday.
Awesome.
If you don't know what that movie is, Long Good Friday, don't go to TrueHollywoodTalk.com. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks very much.